Welcome to Unit 8. Unit 8 is called Evaluation. And as you know by now, as we study what industrial hygiene is, how the industrial hygienist fits onto the EH&S team, you know that evaluation is synonymous with exposure assessments and really more specifically air sampling, probably the most typical type of exposure assessment that an industrial hygienist might undertake. So in this particular unit, you're going to learn lots of things. The first thing that you'll come to appreciate is that the IH has access to many different kinds of toys, if you will, in terms of sampling equipment, sampling choices, instrumentation, lots of different ways for the IH to collect a sample. And so one of the things that we start out with as IHs is to know what is exactly that we're trying to assess. So let's take an example. Let's take an organic solvent called acetone. And let's say that the IH is approached by an interested party to evaluate the exposure to a worker that is working with acetone. Well, the first thing that the IH would have to do is to understand how to collect that sample, and before they can do that, they really need to understand the scope in terms of the work activities that the worker is doing where there might be potential exposures to acetone. So there's a lot of information gathering that goes into a project first off, and then once the exposure assessment, initial exposure assessment is done, then the IH needs to consult the methods that are published by typically OSHA or the National Institute for Occupational Safety and Health. And these methods will tell the IH exactly how to collect the samples. So it might say, we want you to use a charcoal tube, and we want you to use a sampling pump that's adjusted at 1 liter per minute, and we want you to collect a total air volume of no less than, say, 300 liters. So all of these different variables are dictated by the particular method. So the IH will get that particular equipment together, they'll hook up the sample to the individual, they'll collect it in accordance with the method, and then they will send the sample, this charcoal tube in this case, off to the laboratory where an analysis will be done of that material, and the lab will tell the IH, here's how much acetone you have in the air, typically as an 8-hour time-weighted average. So then the IH will look at that number, will compare it to what OSHA or some other entity has established as an acceptable exposure limit, and then put together a summary of what the findings were and then what recommendations there are based on the results. And so your reading will give you a nice overview of the different types of sampling methods, and in this unit you're also going to review a sampling report. And it's good for you to see what the finished product looks like because it will walk you through all the different considerations that the IH has to make along the way, and of course it culminates in this report that is the deliverable to the client. So I think you're going to have a really good appreciation of what the process is that the IH goes through when doing an exposure assessment. So on to Unit 8, Evaluation. Enjoy.